The moment Ethan Cross stepped into that cramped diner on Fifth Avenue, his perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit worth more than the entire month's rent of the establishment. He wasn't looking for redemption. He was looking for coffee, strong, black, and capable of erasing the migraine from back-to-back board meetings. What he found instead was a mirror image of his own face, twice over, staring back at him. From a corner booth where a woman with tired eyes was cutting pancakes into small, careful bites for two 5-year-old boys who had his exact crooked smile, his distinctive gray-green eyes, and that stubborn cowlick he'd never been able to tame. Time stopped. The coffee cup someone handed him slipped through his fingers, shattering against the black and white checkered floor, but Ethan didn't hear it. He didn't hear the startled gasp of the waitress or the concerned murmurs of other patrons. All he could hear was the pounding of his own heart and a single, devastating thought. I have children. The woman, he'd know her anywhere. Even after 5 years, looked up at the commotion, and their eyes met across the crowded diner. Emma Richardson. The name hit him like a freight train, along with the rush of memories he'd carefully buried in the deepest vaults of his mind. The charity gala, the genuine laughter. The one night he'd let his guard down and been simply Ethan. Not Ethan Cross, billionaire CEO of Cross Industries. The morning he'd woken up alone, with nothing but a note that said, "Thank you for reminding me what kindness looks like." He'd spent months trying to find her. Private investigators, every resource money could buy, but Emma Richardson had vanished like smoke, and eventually he'd forced himself to stop looking, to accept that some people came into your life as lessons, not permanent fixtures. But she hadn't vanished. She'd been here in New York, just 15 blocks from his corporate headquarters, raising his sons, in a third-floor walk-up above a laundromat. Ethan's feet moved before his brain could catch up. He crossed the diner in long strides, his 6'3" frame drawing attention as it always did. But for once, he didn't care about the stares or the whispered recognition. When he reached their table, Emma had already wrapped her arms protectively around both boys, her face drained of color. "Mr. Cross," she said quietly, formally, as if they were strangers. As if she hadn't once traced the scar on his shoulder and listened to him talk about his late mother until sunrise. "Emma!" His voice came out rougher than intended. He looked at the boys, his boys, who were watching him with undisguised curiosity. "We need to talk." "The boys are mine." It wasn't a question. The math was simple, brutal, undeniable. 5 years ago, these children were 5 years old. They had his face, his eyes, even the way the left one's eyebrow, quirked up when he was puzzled, was identical to Ethan's own unconscious habit. Emma's jaw tightened. "Not here, please." One of the twins, the one with a small scar above his eyebrow, spoke, up in a clear, brave voice. "Are you making our mama upset, mister?" The protective instinct in that small voice nearly broke something inside Ethan's chest. This child, his child, was defending his mother from him, from his own father. "No," Ethan said, lowering himself to eye level. His expensive suit be damned as his knee touched the sticky diner floor. "I promise I'm not here to upset anyone. My name is Ethan, what's yours?" "I'm Lucas," the brave one said. "That's Liam. He doesn't talk much to strangers." Liam watched Ethan with those devastating gray-green eyes. And Ethan saw himself at that age, quiet, observant, taking everything in before deciding who to trust. "It's nice to meet you both," Ethan managed, his throat tight. He stood looking at Emma, whose eyes were suspiciously bright. "Please, just 30 minutes. There's a park 2 blocks from here." Emma glanced at her watch, a cheap plastic thing that probably cost less than the tip he'd left for lunch yesterday, and something like resignation crossed her features. "The boys have reading time in 30 minutes. I'll have you back in 29 minutes. The walk to the park was silent and excruciating. The twins ran ahead, pointing at pigeons and arguing about which superhero would win in a fight, their small backpacks bouncing with each step. Ethan noticed the patches on their jeans, the way their sneakers were worn at the toes. He noticed Emma's own threadbare coat, the way she held herself with dignity despite the obvious struggle. When they reached the park, the boys immediately spotted the playground and turned pleading eyes to their mother. "Stay where I can see you," Emma instructed. and they were off like shots, their laughter carrying in the crisp autumn air. The silence stretched between Ethan and Emma as they stood side by side on the grass, watching the children play. "Why?" Ethan finally asked. "Why didn't you tell me?" Emma's laugh was bitter and broken. "Tell you what, exactly? That the billionaire I spent one night with, one perfect, impossible night, left me pregnant? I tried, Ethan. I called your office 17 times. I sent letters. I even showed up at Cross Industries once, 6 months pregnant. And your security team escorted me out like I was some kind of stalker or gold digger." The words hit him like physical blows. I never knew. I never got any messages. Your assistant made it very clear that Mr. Cross doesn't entertain claims from women seeking financial opportunities." Emma's voice cracked. "I was 23 years old, working 2 jobs to put myself through nursing school, and suddenly I was pregnant with twins. I had no family, no support system, and the father, you, was unreachable behind walls of money and security." Ethan felt sick. Miranda, his assistant of 7 years, the woman he'd trusted implicitly, the woman who'd been fired 8 months ago for embezzlement. She was stealing from the company, screening my calls, intercepting correspondence. We only discovered it last year during an audit. I stopped trying after Lucas was born. Emma continued as if she hadn't heard him. He had complications. He was in the NICU for 3 weeks. Liam was healthy, but Lucas, every day I thought I might lose him. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I couldn't worry about tracking down a billionaire who clearly didn't want to be found. I had to focus on keeping my son alive. Emma. Ethan turned to face her fully, and for the first time, she saw the devastation in his eyes. I looked for you. For months. I hired investigators. I thought you'd decided that night was a mistake. Her eyes widened. You looked for me? I fell in love with you that night, Ethan said simply. The words he'd never said to anyone else falling from his lips like a confession. Not with some idea of you, but with you, your laugh, your passion for helping people, the way you saw me as just Ethan, not the heir to a fortune. When you left, I felt like I'd lost something irreplaceable. A tear rolled down Emma's cheek. I fell in love with you too. That's why leaving was so hard. But our worlds, they're too different. You live in penthouses and private jets. We live paycheck to paycheck. I work double shifts at the hospital while the boys are in school, and my neighbor Mrs. Chen watches them after school until I get home. Mama! Lucas's voice rang out. Both boys were racing toward them, Liam slightly ahead. Can we get ice cream? Not today, baby, Emma said gently. We need to get home for reading time. I want to be part of their lives, Ethan said urgently, quietly as the boys reached them. Part of your life. However you'll let me. Emma looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for something. This isn't a fairy tale, Ethan. I'm not some damsel waiting to be rescued. We've built a life. It might not be fancy, but it's ours and it's filled with love. I know, Ethan said. I'm not asking to rescue you. I'm asking for the chance to know my sons, to be a father to them, he swallowed hard, to prove that I'm worth a second chance. Mr. Ethan, Lucas piped up, are you coming to read with us? Mama does all the funny voices, but she says she's not good at dragon voices. Ethan looked down at this small, brave boy, his son, and felt his heart crack wide open. I'm actually pretty good at dragon voices, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Can he come, Mama? Liam spoke for the first time, his small hand slipping into Emma's. Please? Emma looked at her boys, at their hopeful faces, and then at Ethan. He saw the war playing out behind her eyes, the fear of being hurt. Again, the desire to protect her children, but also the recognition that these boys deserved to know their father. And maybe, just maybe, the smallest flicker of that same feeling that had drawn them together 5 years ago. Okay, she said finally. Reading time. But Ethan? Her voice firmed. This isn't about money or grand gestures. If you're going to be in their lives, you're in their lives. You don't get to show up when it's convenient and disappear when it's hard. I understand, Ethan said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. I'm not going anywhere. Not ever again. As they walked back toward Emma's apartment, Lucas grabbed Ethan's hand with the unself-conscious trust of childhood, chattering about his favorite books and how he wanted to be a doctor like his mama when he grew up. Liam stayed close to Emma but kept glancing at Ethan with cautious curiosity. When they climbed the 3 flights of stairs to the small apartment, Ethan didn't see the peeling paint or the cramped quarters. He saw the artwork covering every wall, clearly the boys' creations, the bookshelf overflowing with library books, the way everything was worn but scrupulously clean and filled with love. This was his family. This cramped apartment held more treasure than his entire penthouse. As Emma read Where the Wild Things Are with theatrical flair, making the boys giggle with her monster voices, and Ethan attempted his best dragon roar to their delighted applause, he understood something he'd never fully grasped, despite all his wealth and success. The math of life isn't calculated in dollars or deals. It's measured in moments like these, in small hands that trust you, in laughter that fills small spaces, in second chances you never thought you'd get, and in the quiet courage of a woman who'd chosen her children's well-being over everything else. He'd spent 5 years building an empire, but his real legacy was right here, in twin boys who had his smile and their mother's kind heart, in the woman who'd raised them with nothing but love and determination. The billionaire in him wanted to fix everything with money, to move them to a penthouse, to hire nannies, to give them everything money could buy. But the father, the man, he was becoming understood that what they needed most was simply him, present, patient, proving day by day that he was worthy of being let into the family they'd built. And as Liam finally shyly crawled into his lap during the 3rd story, Ethan Cross, who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, felt tears stream down his face. He was home. Finally, impossibly home.